MycoWizards rules.
Welcome back. This is number 542, broadcast number 221-847.
It's 6. It's number 6.
It's number 6. 6.
No, just 6.
Welcome to the broadcast number 6. I am Eric Lohman.
I'm Daniel Ashley.
And we're going to talk about some cool shit today. You know, feed you in upon our internal thoughts.
What is substrate?
How'd you spell that, with an I? A substrate? Well, go back to our what is that? Our first broadcast where we just were like organic certifications bullshit.
Yeah.
Check it out.
We're getting pretty good at this.
Substrate, by definition, is just like it can be kind of mixed in with media. Media mixtures are composed into substrate. Substrate is what things grow on or fruit from in the mushroom industry. Grain spawn is technically like an amalgamation of ingredients that could be called a substrate. But
the grain is what is technically the substrate.
Yeah, so we call that like spawn substrate, but fruiting substrate largely is the for us lignous based, like wood, soy hull, wheat middling mixture. That is substrate.
Okay. I just need a little bit of context here before we get any further.
This is why we're still the only people in the world doing just substrate and spawn, pretty much.
Yeah, what is that about? Because I mean, I think from the little bit of research that I've done, about this industry,
sure,
there's not very many people who are spawn and substrate producers.
Yeah, they're out there, but most of them, I believe, have made the mistake of continuing to fruit mushrooms. And we really have like 3 business models when you consider getting into cultivation. You have like culture preservation and spawn production. Yeah. You have fruiting substrate pasteurization production. Yeah. And then you have fresh mushroom fruiting and sales and distribution. Yeah. That's 3 different models by which you could actually like get into the industry. You can either incorporate all 3 of those and then say, well, we can only get so many fresh mushroom sales, so why don't we just start selling substrate and spawn and other shit if you make that. But for the most part, we've started to break that down starting from when we stopped fruiting mushrooms by just being a substrate and spawn supplier.
Is there one that is like more profitable than the other?
It just depends on your makeup,
Yeah.
I think what the world has kind of come to and the United States is catching up to is that specialization is the only real pathway forward. Mm-hmm. If you're fully integrated spawn producer, culture, preserver, substrate producer, and fruiter, you have to be pretty fucking large or really fucking small.
Yeah, it's about scale.
The middle scale for all of that requires so much previous knowledge to not have catastrophic losses. So the companies who've tried to come up and do that have failed, or even succeeded for a while, have usually been just young businesses who didn't see something coming.
Wasn't there a sponsor for one of the festivals that had something because they were supposed to sponsor something and then they had like a neurospora outbreak?
Yeah, so Pacific Substrates is no longer a company. I don't know. Maybe they pulled the small hold and tried to sell it. I don't know. I think they were a pretty vested company. Fact check. We need like one of those computers we could just type on and like a light bright screen behind us. It's just like
throw it in the budget.
Yeah. I'll check in next year about it. Welcome to 2025. Okay, so Pacific Substrates they were maybe the first company that tried to really go hard into psychedelic substrates like manure-based cocoa vermiculite substrates, as well as sterilized grains, so that they could send 1, 2, or all the above 2 places to fruit out, or kits for individuals who just wanted to like buy a liquid culture syringe or a spore syringe, knock up some grain, take the grain, toss it onto the back.
Yeah, sure.
What was interesting is they were the major sponsor for the OK Fungi Fest out in Oklahoma. Yep. And then they, I think, filed for bankruptcy and went under or whatever. I don't even know if they filed for bankruptcy. I think they just went under. Okay. I don't know what their whole makeup was. What's weird is we got a call. This is how like juvenile they were in the sense of not knowing what they were getting into. I remember getting a call from Benjamin Dring, I think was his name, who started that, maybe with some other people, and he wanted to white label products for us. And I was I don't think you know who we are. We're the people who are white labeling for other companies. Yeah. And he was like, well, maybe, and it was just a weird conversation, and it was not like threatening. It was just clearly like this dude like didn't do research at all. After a while, he might have figured it out, but I severely doubt it. So I hadn't heard why they went under. They just didn't appear at the OK Mushroom Festival while we were there. And what were the majority of things people were looking for there? Do you have ready to inoculate or inject grain? And do you have the substrate we can expand it into? Yeah. This is how far the at-home psychedelic grower has gotten to. Yeah. Enough to know that language and just go to booth to booth to booth looking for that stuff. Like, do you have the all-encompassing guide or product line? And so I think that there's value in what Pacific Substrates was trying to do with their products. They had like Goonie grains and patty poo. I don't know why the fuck they named them these terrible names. They're kind of, I don't know, fucking potato eaters over there. Anyways, I don't know what it is. It was just kind of funny. Marketing is marketing, you know. I think they probably did pretty well. I know that towards the end, and I saw some of this at different facilities and heard of it from different people, they were mixing and hydrating, like, call it like a super sack full of cocoa and manure and vermiculite and line all worm castings and all this shit into bags. Yeah, and so instead of bagging them, sterilizing them, or pasteurizing them, sealing them, and shipping them,
they were mixing all in a super sack. And then
they were mixing it in a mixer and then just loading them in super sacks. So at some point, and you've been around long enough to know what will happen if you do that. They hadn't been around long enough to know what will happen if you do that. So you see the fuzz that grows from an unpasteurized bag right on the top. And you can see it. Like we'll have bags like in the office that we just like left out, and you start to see the neurospora activity grow. Imagine having like dozens of super sacks of unpasteurized material.
Super sacks, dude.
Yeah. So one foreign nuclei, reference our deep dive video at MycoWizards.com of everything neurospora.
Also get your neurospora shirt at MycoWizards.com.
That's true. Designed by Mike Vance. Oh, is Captain Sam? Yeah. Anyway, so that is what I heard. I need to fact check this in some way if I really care, but the insider scoop was that they just had a massive orange mold outbreak, which couldn't have been anything else.
Oh my god.
And I think that's what finally did them in, because once neurospora is in your system, getting that out is extremely difficult. And I've known a fair amount of farms who've let it get so far that it is just like growing on the backs of their filters and like.
I remember in Westbrook, dude. I just remember sitting outside. I was like 16, and you're like, all right,
yeah.
We have like 100 bags. We were tiny, and that was a lot for us.
Just
but it was
puffing out like,
and you're like, no respirator, no fucking nothing. Just
don't like, tell anybody
on
that.
On Allen Ave, right?
Yeah.
Just hucking.
Just point them towards the grave, of the buried dead. Yeah. Daniel, why don't you? Jesus Christ.
Super sex.
So anyways, they had super sacks of that shit, and I think it just got so far that I couldn't go. Also, the bottom line fell out of that side of the industry. Cube costs just dropped so astronomically low, which is good for the consumer, terrible for the companies that tried to fulfill it.
Is there a middle ground in? I know what you're talking about earlier is like to kind of do all three of those metrics of. From supplying substrate and grain and fruiting and all producing your own and whatnot.
Yeah.
Is there a middle ground in terms of like a timeline and like you should do this for this amount of time?
You talking for gourmets or just production models in general?
Yeah, because like shouldn't you? In my head, if I'm going to do something before I expand a different form of the industry, I would want to make sure that I'm pretty damn good at whatever it is that I'm doing and have those things in a place where I'm not, trying to mix and
just make dumb mistakes.
Super sacks.
Well, I think it came down probably from their standpoint. Probably had a customer bail out on them. They probably had like a fucking epic amount of super sacks sitting there, and it might have not been intentional, but I do know that they were shipping that stuff in super sacks, like soaked out super sacks to shit tons of people. So first of all, you're sending that stuff through LTL shipping, which is not like kosher at all. And it's not really a product that makes it's not composted, whatever. It's just a very strange thing. But I think that, is there a time period to get to know that stuff? No. And that's why I think specialization is important. It's like focus on your area of the industry. Buy cultures, buy syringes, buy genetics, and buy spawn from reputable sources. If you're going to become a substrate producer by buying those in, then you should dial in substrate. Like we have a guy, he's been popping on and off of the Instagram asking questions about substrate for the MycoWizards Instagram. And I think I reposted KM Amanda's Black Oyster thing that she tagged us in. Shout out to KM. And basically he was like, man, mine don't grow like that anymore. And I was like, well, she's using our combo pellets in particular, and she's using our spawn directly. Anything within that sort of like arena, you have to figure out all of your variables that might negatively affect the production of your substrate. Is it what you're putting in it? Is it how you're hydrating it? Is it how long you're sterilizing it or pasteurizing it? Is it how long you're waiting to do that or waiting for it to cool down?
That's interesting.
The variables at every step of the way start to compile, and each failure has to be a demarcation of what you did wrong. So once you reach a level of consistency in one of these three things,
then you slowly, if
you can integrate
applicable, you can change a little thing here or add something to it.
And that's why the model of like become a fruiter, integrate substrate, and maybe make your own spawn and genetics is the stair-stepping way to vertically integrate into like a farm that does that. The scale is the most difficult part, and it depends on where you are, the cost of your electricity, like all these things. So over 2020 into like 2024, I think there was a huge spike in like the amount of people who just were like, we watch the YouTube videos, we might be MycoWizards subscribers, we know what the fuck we're doing. And sink all your money into it in the world and don't ask enough questions and don't do your research, and it's going to bite you in the ass.
Too much, too fast.
This isn't like we're manufacturing nuts and bolts and screws and pieces of plastic and putting them on shelves. There's no shelf stability. It's a living organism. You have to be very diligent. You have to be comfortable with some form of waste so that you're not putting out subpar products or using subpar spawn or whatever. That is not a metric used in most business savvy minds.
Where does that come? Does that come from like a background of business? Does that come from a background of farming, having to deal with these like very fickle,
I think farming is everything, right? That's why it's so funny to hear people's analysis of like how a mushroom farm works from a business savvy standpoint. You're trying to find an investor, you're trying to find sourcing, you're trying to get a loan, you're trying to get a grant, and you're like, these things are fickle little organisms, and they're like, why would you ever do this?
There's no consistency. And your return sounds like it won't happen.
Oh, the risk is so fucking high. And that's why I think that the world of, all of the mushroom cultivators out there who are kind of pooled together and grouped together by proxy of their interests are the most interesting collection of characters, because clearly they're not doing it because it's a smart financial decision. The rest of the world has incentives and all sorts of reasons and rationales to fund and help farm sectors of their countries, states, or whatever. The United States doesn't give a fuck. Everywhere else it's subsidized.
I mean, and that's just another, that's an encouragement for us, for me personally, as to why, we're doing this, why MycoWizards is important,
right?
Why sharing everything that you're learning, not gatekeeping anything, and in an effort to push this decentralized network of mushrooms and food. It's important.
Yeah. it feeds the overall narrative that like not every career path or focus has to be financially driven. Yeah. Sometimes you're a supplier of the, you know, food, medicine, or a bed. Yeah. Like those are essentials. And I think that every person should be guaranteed those things.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you're not working in one of those sectors, your focus isn't necessarily negative, but you're not of the same mindset as some of these like crazy farmers, like, you know, we are. And I think that is the thing that really encapsulates a country in flux, trying to like find its way out and through and beyond. Yeah. So you have these age-old companies like, you know, who've been around for generations, and then you have like people who started up during the pandemic, you know. Yeah. So anyways,
well, I think that's
holy
time.
Shit, 16 minutes has almost arrived.
Well, that was lovely. Thank you for that.
Sure. I don't even know what we just talked about.
Substrate. I don't know.
Case studies, substrate, if 101, the pandemic.
If you want to see more of this MycoWizardry, head on over to MycoWizards.com. We have things from deep dives on culture preservation, dehydration, de-dicharoticization, just history of reishi. Eric and Gregor sit down and have a fun little chat in front of a fire.
A bunch of phenoflicks.
Talking about what we do over at Captain STEM and what we produce over there. It's a lot of cool stuff. Sign up for your first 30 days free. Use code MycoTry at checkout. Why are you smiling at me, Mikey? Fuck you.
Shit, we have a flow hood to give away, bro.
Oh, fuck, you're right. What's his name? So we're trying.
Oh shit, we pulled this earlier. Okay, so we have a stack of extra like things to give away, and we figured why not? We'll do them on here.
Yeah, give it a shot. So the rules are you have to be subscribed to our MycoWizards platform on any tier. Doesn't matter if you're a $5 podcast supporter or you're whatever the highest tier is on there. I don't even know.
I think the annual one, it's like if you want 12 cultures right up front and a year of deep dives.
Yeah, we've got culture clubs, liquid culture clubs, all the great shit over there. But we're going to give a flow hood away to Mr. Joel Myers.
Look at OK Mushco. I'm sure you guys have flow hoods, and I'm sure you're expanding. I mean, OK Mushroom they're cool, man.
Yeah, shout out.
They were our gourmet compadres at the fucking OK Fungi Festival.
Gourmet compadres.
Well, they were, and they sold so many mushrooms. I think they did quite well.
That's
great. It was really cool to see all these like spore syringe vendors be like, just take these free samples. And they were like slinging hard fucking oysters, lion's mane, chestnut, pita pita.
Sick.
It was really cool. And getting the chance to like hang out with those folks and get some dinner and stuff was awesome. So that's pretty cool that you won a tiny flow hood from. I mean, they're fucking cool, these little flow hoods. I'm not gonna lie, they're awesome. Shit, who does make them, Mike? Lab Rat. I just drew a blank as this bright light stares at me like a tractor beam. Oh, cow!
That's it. Yes. I'm Daniel Ashley.
I'm Eric Lohman.
Bye. MycoWizards.com